Hey, how's it going? LT Nomad here Okay, maybe I shouldn't use the same intro, so let's just scrap that. Anyways, hi, I am LT Nomad, and I will cover some hints about GeoGuessr countries. This time, the continent is Asia. Hope you enjoy. To differentiate Bangladesh and India, it sounds pretty difficult, right? Honestly, when you look into the differences between India and Bangladesh, it's not that difficult because in Bangladesh, you'll see lots of green rickshaws or tuk-tuks around the big cities or just near the big cities right now. As we can see, we are in Sylhet, which is one of the largest cities in Bangladesh. And also, you'll see lots of this text, which is in Bengali. And to differentiate, let's say, from Indian Sanskrit, just look if there are any kind of triangle symbols in the text. Because lots of Bengali has these symbols and triangles, meanwhile Sanskrit doesn't. However, you might also see some Bengali in East India, specifically West Bengali, since lots of Indian regions speak in lots of different languages. Bhutan is probably the only country in the whole world that is driving on the left side of the road and has Google Gen-free coverage taken by a gray Google car without an antenna. To know if you're driving on the left side of the road, just look at the back of the car. If the back of the car is on the right side from your viewpoint, then when turning around to the front, you'll be on the left side of the road. Whenever I'm playing GeoGuessr, it is very difficult to differentiate India from Cambodia because of the similarities that they have. So I'll try to give you some hints to differentiate India from Cambodia. And in the easiest way I can put it, most of Cambodian coverage is taken by Cam. Yeah, I blurred it out. I won't do it again like last time. And also, you'll find lots of Khmer language all across the country on billboards, advertisements, and also advertisements for Cambodian people's rights. And also, it is very often to see coverage on unpaved roads, since most of Cambodian roads are unpaved, and that's why you can get this cam coverage while being on a red dirt road. Remember how I said that it's pretty difficult to differentiate Cambodia from India? Well, it's because Cambodia isn't the only country where most of the coverage is taken by cam. India is also one of those countries. And here's one way that I differentiate India from Cambodia. Basically, India drives on the left side of the road, meanwhile Cambodia drives on the right side of the road. And India is very diverse when it comes to languages because there are some regions where there's Sanskrit, there's also the Gujarati, also the Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Bengali, and also there is a region where English is official. Indonesia and Malaysia are very similar since they are basically in the same area of Southeast Asia. But here is a couple of ways that you could differentiate Indonesia from Malaysia. First of all, the road lines, because most of Indonesian road lines are white inner and white outer lines, and also yellow inner and white outer lines. Meanwhile, Malaysia, it's all just white inner lines and white outer lines. Another way to differentiate Indonesia from Malaysia is the bollards, because Indonesia sometimes can have these black and yellow bollards with a red reflector. Meanwhile, Malaysia has this bollard that I'm showing on the screen. And that is how I differentiate Indonesia from Malaysia. In GeoGuessr, Israel and Palestine have lots of differences you can find on street signs and also license plates. For example, in Israel, it is very often to see Hebrew text and also yellow license plates with a blue strip on the side. Meanwhile, in Palestine, it is more common to see Arabic script and white license plates. There are 3 hints that you can use to recognize Japan. First of which is the guardrails, because most of Japanese guardrails are painted white, unlike other guardrails that are not painted. The second and very iconic hint to the GeoGuessr players is the utility pole reflectors. These utility pole reflectors are very similar to the ones in Taiwan. However, the ones in Taiwan go all the way down to the ground, meanwhile Japanese don't. And the last but not least is the bollard, because unlike any other bollards where they're wedge-shaped or square or concrete, this one is just a skinny pole with a circular reflector. Those are the 3 hints to recognize Japan. Jordan is the only country in the Middle East where the gen-free coverage was taken by a black Google car without an antenna or a red brake light. Another way to differentiate Jordan from, let's say, Israel is the chevrons, because Jordan has white and red chevrons, which are like the turning arrows. Meanwhile, Israel has black and white chevrons. China is the world's largest country in the world that doesn't have Google coverage. And the second largest is Kazakhstan, or was until June 2023 when Google sent their pickup trucks into Kazakh roads. And as of now, Kazakhstan has this Gen 4 coverage with a white pickup truck. You might also see this white pickup truck in Namibia and also Oman. However, to differentiate those, you can notice the road lines are very different from Oman and Namibia, because Oman and Namibia both have yellow outer lines and white inner lines. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan has white outer lines and white inner lines. Kyrgyzstan is a very heavily mountainous country, as we can see right here. Lots of countries have this similar landscape, but definitely not the similar Google car, as we can see right here. This gen-free coverage was taken by this silver Google car that has a metal roof rack and visible front mirrors. So if you see yourself in this very mountainous country, then look down, and if you notice this car, you can easily guess Kyrgyzstan. Thailand and Laos have lots of similarities, despite Laos having very limited coverage, prominent only in 5 cities. However, one of the few differences is Laos uses these stop signs that only have 2 characters. Meanwhile, Thailand has 3 characters in Thai. Another very key hint is Laos commercial cars use white license plates. Meanwhile, Thailand commercial cars use yellow license plates. And Laos uses those yellow license plates for standard vehicles, as we can see right here. So even though those countries are very similar historically, on GeoGuessr, they still have differences. Ah yes, Lebanon, the country where shitcam is still a thing. Basically, most of Lebanon coverage was taken by shitcam, and here's a very cool hint I found. The taxis of Lebanon use deep red license plates with a blue strip on the side, like an EU license plate. However, normal cars have white license plates that also use this similar blue strip. Wait a second, why is that road called Armenia? What? Anyways, yeah, make sure to look out for this cam coverage and also the license plates. Oh, and if you confuse this with, let's say, Israel, then don't worry, because Lebanon's official language is Arabic, meanwhile Israel's is Hebrew. To understand Malaysian meta, it is very easy. But to personally find Malaysian meta for research, it is pretty difficult, to be honest. But I managed to do it and found 2 hints. And those 2 hints are visible on the screen. The first one is these yellow stripes on the roads. that are very exclusive to Malaysia. These can be, however, found in United Kingdom and Hong Kong, but most of the times it's in Malaysia. Another very cool hint is this black sticker on these metal poles. And these black stickers are exclusively found on mainland Malaysia. Yes, there is another part of Malaysia that is on the Borneo island. Basically, on that island, there isn't that black sticker, but on the mainland Malaysia, which is Southeast Peninsula. And yeah, those are the two hints that you can use to find Malaysia. Personally, Mongolia is my favorite when it comes to GeoGuessr because all you need is just one very simple hint, the Google car. Because Mongolia is the only country that has a roof rack, a snorkel, and a tent. Because, well, Mongolia is large and very unpredictable and empty. That's why I believe the Google driver needs a tent so that he can, well, sleep. And yeah, you only need this one hint to recognize Mongolia. There is also the bollards, which look like bowling pins, but nonetheless, you still need to remember the car. Oman is pretty similar to the UAE because Oman and UAE have the same road lines, the same Google car where the Gen 4 coverage was taken, and also they both speak in Arab language. However, there is one key difference that I found. Most of the Oman non-private vehicles use red license plates. Meanwhile, private vehicles use yellow license plates. And even though that's not a lot, I can give you another hint. Basically, as I said, UAE and Oman both use Arab languages. However, UAE uses more of the dot symbols, unlike Oman. As you heard, the Palestinian anthem is pretty hilarious, but so is the meta that is commonly used. Basically, some countries have follow cars that I'll mention in my future episodes. But this one is rather funny because in Palestine, the Google car is being followed by this white Suzuki Swift that have two buff dudes inside. Yeah, I'm not making this up. Like, I can even try driving up to them. Nope, never mind. And yeah, the thought is just too goddamn hilarious. I don't know why. It's like they can barely fit in the car. They could have picked something, well, better, like a Toyota Hilux, like some countries, but no, they chose one of the tiniest cars ever. Yeah, basically, Palestine is that's the meta that GeoGuessr pros use to guess Palestine. Philippines is pretty easy, yet at the same time pretty difficult. Why? Because in urban areas you'll see lots of Jollibees, which is a pretty popular restaurant in US and Philippines exclusively. And in Philippines, in most of the urban areas, you'll see this type of vehicle, which was popular in the US but got shipped into the Philippines because I believe they ran out of style in the US. Now you're probably wondering, okay, what if I appear in somewhere that is rural? Well, Philippines has these metal octagonal poles that sometimes feature a blue sticker, just like how I mentioned about it in the French episode. And sometimes Philippines can have these special road lines that have white inner lines that are surrounded by yellow inner lines. So this is how you differentiate the country with the most random meta on GeoGuessr. Qatar is another country where even the tiniest details can guarantee your guesses. What I mean by that is this white pickup truck. And even though this white pickup truck can look like all the other pickup trucks that you've seen in this video, the difference is these rusty clippers you can see right here, which are exclusive to Qatar. Another key detail is this coverage was taken before the Qatar World Cup began, so you can often see lots of advertisements for the World Cup in Qatar. Since Russia is, well, the largest country in the world, it sure has lots of regional guesses. But here are some Russian meta that is very common across the country. First of which, the white signposts most of the times are painted black at the bottom. You can also see this in Kazakhstan. The second thing is the three main bollards, which are common across Russia. The German-style bollard, the Austrian-style bollard, and also my personal favorite, the flag bollard. Flags. And another hint is the Cyrillic alphabet, or to Americans, Russian language. So if you see something that looks like it's in English writing, but doesn't look English at the same time, that is Cyrillic alphabet, or to you, Russian. You're welcome. For the simplicity. Oh, and also the poles are pretty weird because most of the Russian utility poles are stabilized by a single concrete thingy, and it looks like the poles are floating and holding on to dear life. Just like Monaco, Singapore is very recognizable through being one of the most developed countries in the world. But if you're in the suburbs of Singapore, you might not recognize it. However, here's a little hint that might help you. The street signs that Singapore uses have this type of font that is pretty familiar to some sort of a Microsoft format. I don't know where I've seen this font, but it's definitely, well, familiar. If that doesn't help you with much, then also the Singaporean flag might help because there's lots of Singaporean flags across the country or city. I don't even know what to call Singapore. It's a city and a country at the same time. But anyway, yeah, street sign font plus the Singaporean flag equals Singapore. Although it should be called Singa-rich. Why am I even joking? Why? South Korea and Japan are pretty similar because they use a similar writing style, their architecture is developed, and also the vehicles because this car looks Japanese, right? But here is how I differentiate Korean from Japanese when I'm on GeoGuessr. Basically, Japan uses most of the times these circle characters, or right here, oval characters, and the Korean writing system is pretty simple. It's either 3 characters on top of each other or 2 characters side by side on top of one. Yep, geography now taught me a lot. Also, most of the times, South Korean coverage is taken by this black Google car. Apparently, Sri Lanka and India are very similar because they're both Hindu countries and they're located next to each other. Plus they have lots of tuk-tuks or rickshaws. But here's a way that I differentiate them. See, Sri Lanka has more Gen 4 coverage than India, and most of the billboards or signs in Sri Lanka use the Sinhala language, which is, well, very squiggly and all. Another great way to differentiate India from Sri Lanka is Sri Lanka has white, long license plates on the front and short, yellow license plates over the back of the vehicles. Taiwan and Japan are pretty easy to differentiate when you know the hints, so I'll help you, the viewers, with that. One of the very important hints is these pole reflectors or just markings. Basically, like I said, in Japan, they have these utility pole reflectors that don't go all the way down to the ground. Meanwhile, Taiwan's pole reflectors or markings do. And another very key detail is on what side of the road they are driving on, because Taiwan drives on the right side of the road, meanwhile Japan and Korea drive on the left side of the road. And even if you do confuse, well, Chinese with Japanese, you can use these 2 hints that I mentioned to get a perfect guess. yes, Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos are all very similar because of the language scripts that they use, despite them being different. But still, these three countries with their language scripts can throw off some people. However, here's a solution. Cambodia and Laos drive on the right side of the road, meanwhile Thailand drives on the left side of the road, just like UK, even though Thailand was never colonized by any European country, which is weird why they chose the left side of the road. And if you don't see any cars inside, just know that most of Thai roads are this type of concrete, which is kind of similar to, let's say, city sidewalks. I'm going to let you guess which meta is visible on the screen. The answer is all of them. Yep, this stop sign, which is pronounced duj, is exclusive to Turkey. Instead of saying stop, it's duj. I think I pronounced it right. Another meta that is common in Turkey is this paper fin bollard. Although it is similar to the Australian one, once you see this bollard and also the capital letter I, which has a dot, it might make you doubtful if it is Australia. Also, yes, Turkey in its capital letter I still uses the dot. So these are the 3 hints that you can use to get Turkey. Like I mentioned, the Oman episode, UAE and Oman are very hard to differentiate because basically they're so similar. Yeah, you can notice a pattern with all these Asian countries. Basically, I may or may not have found another hint. So in UAE, most of the times the curbs are striped and they're either black and yellow or black and white. Another hint that I mentioned in the Oman episode is the Arabic script, because UAE uses a lot of the dot characters, meanwhile Oman doesn't. I really tried to find the difference between those countries, but yeah, it's been pretty difficult. So I hope that this helps you out. So yeah, that is the continent of Asia, all in one video, and I can't believe that I managed to do it that fast. But honestly, I'm proud that I managed to up the stakes of my progress, and I'm very happy that wait, I forgot to make an announcement. I am very close to 1,000 views on my channel. Yeah, I can't believe it. Wow. Like, it's only been 3 months of my channel existing and I'm already so close to 1,000 views. Why am I saying it like it's 1,000 subscribers? I'm still only at like 28. But hey, it's still pretty cool, you know? And consider subscribing if you like the videos. If not, that's okay. I'm not the only GeoGuessr YouTuber out there. Anyways, I will see you around on the next continent, which will be Africa. Yes. Yeah, it'll be very fun once again. And I hope you wait for it as much as I will.